The gas giant Nix 427 hung in space like a bruise against the stars, its swirling purple-black atmosphere promising death to any who dared enter. Deep within those lethal clouds, Venna pressed her crystalline fingers against the observation window of the abandoned mining facility, watching her oxygen reserves tick down on her environmental suit's display. The Marixi scientists' bioluminescent markings pulsed with anxiety, casting faint blue light across the metal walls. 72 hours. That's how long she had before the facility's failing systems would give out completely. The pirates who had attacked her research vessel had known exactly what they were doing, disabling her ship's engines with surgical precision and forcing her to choose between death in space or seeking refuge in this derelict station. They'd followed her down, but the station's ancient defense systems had activated just long enough to drive them back. Now those same systems were draining what little power remained. Another ship passed overhead, its engine signature clear even through the facility's deteriorating sensors. Like all the others, it ignored her distress beacon. The coordinates of Nix 427 were well marked in navigational charts, not for the valuable gases that had once been mined here, but as a warning. The atmospheric pressure at this depth could crush most ships like empty protein packs. Assistance requested. Venna broadcast again, her translator converting her crystalline language into standard galactic frequencies. Research scientist Venna Talcarix of the Marixi Science Academy. Emergency shelter required. Power systems critical. Static answered her, as it had for the past 2 days. She didn't blame them. Even if someone wanted to help, the risk calculation was simple. One stranded scientist wasn't worth losing a ship and crew to Nix 427's lethal environment. Venna moved through the facility's corridors, her crystalline body refracting the emergency lights. The Marixi were silicon-based life forms, evolved in the high-pressure depths of their homeworld's oceans. It made her uniquely suited to survive here longer than most species, but even her natural resilience had limits. The precious atmospheric mixture in her suit was all that kept the toxic gases of Nix 427 from dissolving her crystalline respiratory surfaces. The facility groaned around her, another pressure wave making the structural supports creak. The mining station had been built by the Duraxians, a species known for their engineering, but even their legendary construction couldn't withstand the gas giant's forces forever. Already, the outer sections had begun to buckle. A warning light flashed on her environmental controls. The suit's filtration system was working harder now, struggling to process the trace amounts of corrosive gas seeping through microscopic stress fractures in the facility's walls. Venna adjusted the settings, knowing she was only delaying the inevitable. She reached the central control room, checking the power distribution one more time. The station's automated systems were cannibalizing themselves, shutting down section by section to maintain core life support. Soon, she would be confined to a single room, conserving the last breathable atmosphere while she waited for either rescue or death. Had her research been worth this risk? The question haunted her as she reviewed her data tablets. Her team had been studying the unique atmospheric phenomena of gas giants, particularly the massive storm systems that could persist for centuries. Understanding these patterns could revolutionize weather control on inhabited worlds, saving millions of lives from natural disasters. Now that research, along with her colleagues, was likely scattered across space, destroyed by pirates who had probably been hired by rival scientific institutions or corporations. The facility's sensors pinged, detecting another ship passing through the upper atmosphere. Venna didn't bother broadcasting a distress signal this time. Instead, she pressed her hand against the cold metal wall, feeling the vibrations of the dying station. The Marixi were not a particularly spiritual species, but in that moment, she found herself reciting the crystal prayers of her childhood. The ship above changed course. Venna's sensors lit up with new data. The vessel was unlike anything she'd seen before, smaller than standard rescue craft, with an unusual hull configuration that seemed to redistribute pressure across its surface. Its engine signature was equally strange, producing harmonics that suggested incredibly precise power management. A transmission cut through the static. Nix 427 facility. This is the Earth vessel Horizon Breaker. We've detected your distress signal. Can you confirm your status? Earth vessel. Vena's bioluminescence flickered with surprise. Humans were newcomers to the galactic community, known more for their aggressive expansion and resourcefulness than their altruism. Their homeworld was classified as a death world by most species standards, producing beings that could survive conditions that would kill most sentient life forms. Confirmed, she transmitted back. One survivor. Facility power critical. Environmental systems failing. There was a pause, likely the humans consulting among themselves. Vena could imagine the conversation, weighing the risks, calculating their chances of survival. The smart decision would be to mark her position and call for better-equipped rescue ships. The response, when it came, contained none of the expected reluctance. Understood. Hold position. We're coming down. Vena's crystalline form vibrated with disbelief. Negative. Horizon Breaker. Pressure at this depth exceeds safety margins for most vessels. Facility integrity failing. Rescue attempt not recommended. Good thing we don't specialize in recommended approaches then. The human's voice carried an emotion Vena's translator couldn't quite parse, something between amusement and determination. Besides, we've got some ideas about that pressure problem. Keep broadcasting. We'll reach you in 30 minutes. The human ship descended into the layers of toxic atmosphere, its image distorting on Vena's screens as it battled Nix 427's increasingly hostile conditions. She watched, transfixed, as they attempted what every other passing ship had deemed impossible. Either these humans were incredible engineers, incredible fools, or perhaps something altogether different, a species whose very nature made them unwilling to abandon someone in need, regardless of the odds. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the helm of the Horizon Breaker, her eyes fixed on the holographic display showing Nix 427's atmospheric layers. The gas giant's swirling storms painted patterns of purple and black across her face as she adjusted their descent trajectory. Warning indicators flashed across every console, screaming that they were exceeding their safety margins. Hull pressure at 87% of maximum tolerance, reported Maya Rodriguez, the ship's engineer. Her fingers danced across multiple screens, redirecting power between systems. The modifications to the gravitational field are holding, but we're burning through energy reserves faster than calculated. How long until we reach the facility's depth? Sarah asked, not taking her eyes off the display. 22 minutes at current descent speed. This came from Daniel Park, their navigation specialist. His usual easy smile was replaced with intense concentration. Though I'm more worried about how we'll get back up. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. One impossible thing at a time, Danny. The Horizon Breaker had never been meant for this kind of mission. They were a salvage vessel specialized in recovering abandoned ships and station components from deep space. But that same specialization had given them unique advantages. Their ship's systems were modular, designed to adapt to various environments. More importantly, their crew had extensive experience working in hazardous conditions. Update from Dr. Watson, called out James Cooper from the communication station. The youngest crew member's voice carried an edge of excitement despite the tension. He's finished analyzing the biological data from our stranded scientist. She's Merixi, crystalline silicon-based life form. Actually, that's good news. Explain, Sarah ordered, making another course correction as a violent storm system approached their position. Merixi evolved under extreme pressure, James continued. Their bodies are naturally resistant to crushing forces. If we can just reach her before the facility's environmental systems fail completely, she'll have better survival chances than most species during transport. Maya looked up from her station. That actually helps with another problem. I've been trying to figure out how to modify our cargo hold's pressure systems for a rescue, But if she's Marixi, we can use the mineral preservation protocols we developed for those Centaurian crystal formations we salvaged last month. Sarah nodded. Her crew's ability to draw connections between seemingly unrelated experiences had saved their lives more than once. It was why they'd survived 3 years of deep space salvage work, when most independent operators barely lasted one. A massive tremor shook the ship, sending warning alarms into a new frenzy. Maya swore in Spanish as she fought to stabilize their systems. "Status," Sarah demanded. "We just got hit by a pressure wave unlike anything in our initial scans," Daniel reported. "The gas giant's storms are intensifying. The facility's presence at this depth might be disrupting normal atmospheric patterns." "Captain," Maya's voice carried urgency. "That last wave stressed our hull plates beyond safety margins. We got microfractures forming in sections 3 through 7. The self-repair systems are responding, but we can't take many more hits like that." Sarah processed the information, weighing options with the speed born of years commanding vessels in crisis situations. Their ship's innovative design allowed the hull to flex and redistribute pressure, but even that had limits. They needed another approach. "Danny, bring up the storm pattern analysis," she ordered. "Maya, show me the pressure distribution across our hull during that last wave." The displays merged, creating a complex 3-dimensional model. Sarah studied it for several seconds before her eyes lit up with recognition. "There," she pointed to a particular pattern in the storm movements. "The facility's presence isn't just disrupting the storms, it's creating predictable turbulence patterns. Danny, can you plot these disturbances back to their source?" Daniel's fingers flew across his console. "Already on it. Yes, yes. The facility is sitting in what should be a relatively stable pocket. The storms are breaking around it like waves around a rock." "Maya, if we match our descent to these patterns," the engineer was already running calculations, "we could ride the pressure waves instead of fighting them. It would be like surfing into the eye of a hurricane. But it could work. We'd need perfect timing." "Good thing we have the best navigator in the quadrant then," Sarah said, shooting Daniel an expectant look. He cracked his knuckles with theatrical flair. "Flattery will get you everywhere, Captain. Plotting new approach vector now. Fair warning. This is going to feel like hitting every piece of space debris between here and Earth all at once." Sarah opened the ship-wide comm. "All hands, secure for extreme turbulence. Dr. Watson, prep the medical bay for both human and Marixi patients. We might all need it after this." The horizon breaker turned into the storm, its engines pulsing in precise patterns as Daniel guided them through the chaos. They weren't fighting the gas giant's fury anymore. They were letting it guide them down, using its own forces to protect them from the crushing pressure. Warning alarms continued to blare, but now they carried a different meaning. These weren't warnings of impending failure, but rather the sound of a ship and crew pushing the boundaries of what was possible. The impossible rescue was starting to look merely improbable. 5 minutes to facility contact," Daniel announced. "I found a relatively stable approach vector through the facility's defense perimeter. Maya, start cycling the cargo hold's atmosphere. James, contact our guest. Let her know we're almost there and tell her to be ready for rapid evacuation. The facility's structural integrity won't allow us to dock for long." Sarah watched her crew work with fierce pride. Humans weren't the strongest species in the galaxy, or the most technologically advanced, but they had something that centuries of comfortable civilization had engineered out of many other species, an absolute refusal to accept failure when lives were at stake. The facility's bulk appeared through the storms, its ancient structure a testament to Duraxian engineering. As they approached, Sarah could see the signs of stress in its construction: warped plates, stress fractures, and sections already crumpling under the gas giant's relentless pressure. "Final approach," Daniel announced. "And Captain, multiple contacts just appeared on long-range sensors. Looks like we're not the only ones interested in our stranded scientist." The Horizon Breaker shuddered as its docking clamps engaged with the failing mining facility. Through the reinforced viewport, Sarah watched chunks of the station's outer hull peel away into the purple-black maelstrom of Nix 427's atmosphere. Multiple vessels on approach, James reported from his station. Configuration matches Outer Rim Raiders. 3 ships, heavily armed. They're trying to communicate through the storm interference. Put them through, Sarah ordered, but keep working on the facility's lock mechanisms. We're not stopping this rescue. A harsh voice cut through static. Earth vessel, this is Commander Vex of the Free Commerce Fleet. You're interfering with a legitimate salvage operation. Withdraw immediately. Sarah's expression hardened. Commander, this is Captain Chen. We're conducting an emergency rescue of a surviving crew member. There's no salvage claim on living personnel. The Marixi scientist is our property. We disabled her vessel, which gives us claim under Outer Rim law. Leave now, or we'll consider your ship salvage as well. Maya looked up from her engineering station. Captain, the facility's power grid is cascading toward failure. We have maybe 10 minutes before total structural collapse. And our uninvited friends? Sarah asked. 15 minutes out at their current speed, Daniel answered. They're better armed, but these storms are a great equalizer. They can't fire effectively in this soup. Sarah nodded, her mind racing through options. James, get me internal facility communications. Maya, how quickly can we cycle the cargo hold's atmosphere? 3 minutes for a full cycle. But Maya's eyes lit up with understanding. We could vent it directly into the facility. The mineral preservation protocols would give our guest a breathable atmosphere for the transfer. Do it. James, signal Dr. Watson to prep the medical bay for immediate pressure treatment. Sarah opened the channel to the facility. Scientist Talcarix, this is Captain Chen. We're about to pressurize your section with breathable atmosphere. Be ready to move quickly. Venna's crystalline voice came through clearly. Understood, Captain. But you should know, the pirates. They're not just after me. They're after my research. The data I've collected could revolutionize climate control technology. That's why they attacked my ship. Of course, it's not just a simple rescue, Daniel muttered. It's never just a simple rescue. Sarah's mind raced through the implications. Climate control technology would be worth billions in the right hands, or could cause devastating damage in the wrong ones. The pirates' persistence suddenly made much more sense. Maya, new plan. When we cycle the hold's atmosphere, I want you to create the biggest sensor echo you can. Make it look like catastrophic system failure. The engineer grinned. You want me to blow bubbles in a hurricane? I can do that. Rerouting power to the external field generators now. The ship groaned as Maya's adjustments created artificial pressure waves, distorting their signature in the storms. On their sensors, it would look like the Horizon Breaker was breaking apart. James, as soon as our guest is aboard, broadcast a general distress call. Make it seem like we're losing containment. Danny, plot us the most erratic course you can manage while still keeping us intact. Going for the wounded prey gambit, Daniel's fingers were already dancing across his console. I like it. These raiders aren't used to hunting in atmosphere. They'll expect us to run straight up. Sarah opened the ship-wide comm. All hands, prepare for extreme maneuvering. Dr. Watson, secure all medical equipment. This is going to get rough. The cargo hold's atmosphere cycled with a deep hiss. On the internal cameras, Sarah watched as Venna made her way through the facility's corridors toward their docking port. The Marixi scientist moved with surprising grace despite her crystalline form, her bioluminescent markings pulsing with what Sarah hoped was excitement rather than fear. Facility integrity at critical levels, Maya warned. We've got major structural failures beginning in the outer sections. Raiders are accelerating, James added. They're not buying our distress act. They're going to be in weapons range in 10 minutes. Sarah watched as Venna reached their airlock. Time to show them why you don't corner a human vessel. Maya, prepare to disengage docking clamps on my mark. Danny, Give me a course through the worst turbulence you can find. You realize that's practically suicide, right? Daniel asked, even as he worked on the calculations. Exactly. No sane species would attempt it. Sarah allowed herself a predatory smile, which is precisely why it'll work. The airlock cycled, and Venna's crystalline form appeared on their internal cameras, safely aboard the Horizon Breaker. She carried several data tablets clutched against her transparent chest. Guests secured. Dr. Watson's voice came through the comm. Beginning pressure stabilization. Now, Maya, Sarah ordered, disengage and give me everything the engines have got. The Horizon Breaker broke free from the dying facility, just as another massive section collapsed. Maya's engineered pressure wave made their separation look like an explosion, sending debris and gas clouds in all directions. Daniel's plotted course took them straight down, deeper into the gas giant's atmosphere. It was the last thing any rational pilot would do, which made it perfect. The raiders, expecting them to flee upward, had positioned themselves to cut off escape to space. Raiders are splitting formation, James reported. 2 following us down, 1 staying high to cut off any ascent. Sarah nodded. Just as expected. Maya, how are our systems holding? Hull integrity at 60% and falling. We can maintain this depth for maybe 5 minutes before we'll need to climb. That's all we need. Danny, take us into that major storm system at bearing 047. The navigator's eyes widened. The one with the visible lightning. The storm that's bigger than Earth's Pacific Ocean. That storm system, that's the one. Maya, route all spare power to the hull's electromagnetic field. James, keep broadcasting that distress signal. Make it sound like we're in total panic. The Horizon Breaker plunged into the massive storm, its modified systems training against forces that would crush most ships instantly. Behind them, the pirate vessels followed, their more conventional designs already showing signs of stress. Raiders are launching missiles, James called out. Impact in 15 seconds. Sarah's smile grew wider. Perfect. Maya, cut power to the electromagnetic field on my mark. Danny, be ready to pull up hard. The missiles streaked toward them, their guidance systems struggling with the storm interference. At the last possible moment, Sarah gave the order. Now. The Horizon Breaker's electromagnetic field collapsed just as a massive lightning burst erupted from the storm. Without the ship's field to deflect it, the electrical discharge caught the incoming missiles, detonating them prematurely. The explosion, combined with the storm's natural turbulence, created a cascade of pressure waves that slammed into the pursuing raiders. Raider vessels showing multiple hull breaches, James reported, unable to keep the excitement from his voice. They're breaking off pursuit. No way their ships can take this kind of punishment. Take us up, Danny, Sarah ordered. Nice and slow, like we're struggling. Let's not let them know it was a trick, until we're well clear. As they ascended through the layers of toxic atmosphere, Sarah glanced at the medical base feed. Venna was watching their escape on a monitor, her crystalline form glowing with what seemed to be amazement. The Merixi scientist wasn't the first to underestimate humans, and she wouldn't be the last. Let the galaxy call them primitive or savage. Sometimes it took a species comfortable with their predatory nature to accomplish the impossible. In the Horizon Breaker's medical bay, Dr. Watson monitored Venna's crystalline form as the ship climbed through Nix 427's atmospheric layers. The Merixi scientists' bioluminescent patterns had shifted from their earlier anxious pulses to slower, more regular rhythms that his stenobiology training suggested indicated calm. Your cellular structure is already stabilizing, he noted, studying the readings. The pressure transition should have been traumatic, but you're adapting remarkably well. We Merixi evolved to withstand extreme pressure changes, Venna explained, her translator converting the vibrations of her crystalline form into standard speech. Though I admit, I never expected to test those adaptations quite so dramatically. She paused, her lights flickering in what might have been hesitation. I have a question, if I may. Of course. Why did you attempt the rescue? The risk assessment made no logical sense. Your ship could have been destroyed, your crew killed. Even now, we're being pursued by pirates who want my research. Yet you never hesitated. Watson smiled as he adjusted the medical bay's pressure settings. You know, for all the advanced species in the galaxy, sometimes I think they overthink the simple things. We saw someone who needed help. That's all the logic we needed. The ship shuddered as it hit another turbulent layer, though the vibrations were noticeably less violent than during their descent. Through the medical bay's viewport, the purple-black atmosphere was beginning to thin, showing hints of stars beyond. Bridge to medical. Sarah's voice came through the comm. How's our guest holding up? Stable and improving, Watson reported. The pressure transitions aren't bothering her nearly as much as they're bothering us. Though I'd appreciate fewer acrobatics for the next few minutes while I finish these readings. No promises, Doc. Our friends haven't given up entirely. They're following at a distance, probably waiting to see if we'll lead them to the nearest Federation outpost. There was a pause, which is exactly what they expect us to do. Vena's lights pulsed rapidly. You have another plan. Captain Chen always has another plan, Watson said with a mixture of pride and resignation. Usually one that's going to make my job more interesting. As if on cue, Sarah's voice returned. All hands, prepare for emergency FTL jump. Dr. Watson, secure all medical equipment and our guest. We're about to try something that's either brilliant or incredibly stupid. With humans, I'm learning those might be the same thing, Vena observed. Watson laughed as he activated the medical bay's emergency protocols. You're catching on quick, though I should warn you. What we consider normal operating procedures tend to horrify most species. The ship's engines changed pitch, the familiar rumble shifting to a higher frequency that made Watson's teeth vibrate. He recognized the sound. They were pushing the drives well beyond their rated capacity. The pirates will be expecting us to exit the atmosphere completely before attempting a jump to FTL, he explained to Vena. It's what any sensible species would do. The gravitational interference from a gas giant makes calculating jump coordinates extremely difficult. Understanding lit up Vena's crystalline form. You're going to jump while still in the atmosphere. That's insane. Reckless, probably impossible. Watson grinned. Welcome to human spaceflight. We specialize in all three. The medical bay's screens showed their pursuit. 3 pirate vessels maintaining a careful distance, no doubt waiting for the horizon breaker to make a predictable break for open space. They had better ships, better weapons, and the patience born of experience. By all logical measures, they held every advantage. But logic, Watson had learned long ago, was often overrated. The horizon breaker's engine screamed as Sarah executed a maneuver that looked like a desperate attempt to climb faster. To the pirates, it would appear their prey was panicking, making mistakes. The pursuit becoming predictable was something every predator counted on. All hands, brace for jump in 10 seconds. Sarah's voice was calm despite the strain evident in the ship's systems. Maya, give me everything the engines have got. Danny, those calculations better be perfect. When are they not? Came Daniel's strained reply. Though I feel obligated to point out that we're about to attempt an FTL jump through conditions that make our navigation computers scream in digital terror. That's why I'm not asking the computers, Sarah said. I'm asking you. Watson secured the last piece of equipment and double-checked Vena's restraints. The Merixie's crystalline form was pulsing with what his training suggested was a mixture of fear and excitement. Your species, Vena said suddenly. You enjoy this, don't you? Not just the rescue, but pushing beyond what should be possible. Finding ways to turn disadvantages into strengths. We've had a lot of practice, Watson replied. Earth tried its best to kill us for a few million years. We learned to be creative. The ship's jump drive engaged with a sound that seemed to exist somewhere between a scream and a prayer. Physics itself protested as they tore a hole in space-time. While still within Nix 427's gravitational influence, warning alarms blared from every system as the impossible jump began. For a fraction of a second, Watson felt the unique disorientation of FTL transition combined with atmospheric turbulence. It was like being turned inside out while falling from a great height, a sensation that would have killed most species from shock alone. Humans, with their bizarre ability to endure motion sickness, handled it better than most. Then they were through, emerging in normal space, far from where any rational navigator would have plotted an exit point. The pirates, assuming they survived their own atmospheric escape, would waste precious time searching in completely wrong sectors. Jump completed. Maya's exhausted voice came over the comm. Though I think we just violated about 15 laws of physics and probably a few local ordinances. Add them to the list, Sarah replied. Status report from all stations. As the crew began their damage assessments, Watson noticed Venna studying them with an intensity that made her entire crystalline form glow. You're categorized as a death world species, she said finally. Most civilized worlds consider that a mark of primitive development, suggesting beings ruled by aggression and survival instincts rather than logic and reason. She paused, her lights shifting to what Watson had learned indicated emphasis. They're wrong, aren't they? Your instincts aren't primitive at all. They're exactly what the galaxy needs. Watson thought about the rescue they'd just performed, about the countless impossible situations humans had survived throughout their history. We have a saying on Earth, necessity is the mother of invention. When something needs to be done, we find a way to do it. Logic and reason are tools, but sometimes you need something more. Sometimes you need the kind of thinking that only comes from a species that evolved by overcoming impossible odds. The medical bay's screens showed their new position, safely hidden in the shadow of a rogue planetoid. They'd survived, rescued their guest, and protected vital research that could help countless worlds. Not bad for a primitive death world species. Now then, Watson said, turning back to his instruments, let's make sure that impossible jump didn't rearrange any of our internal organs. Though knowing humans, we've probably just figured out how to digest plasma radiation, or something equally improbable. Venna's crystalline laugh filled the medical bay, a sound like wind chimes in a storm. She was beginning to understand that with humans, the impossible was just another problem waiting to be solved, usually in the most dramatic way possible. 3 months after the rescue at Nix 427, Venna stood before the Galactic Council's Scientific Ethics Committee. The Grand Chamber, with its soaring crystalline spires and floating holographic displays, had been designed to inspire awe. Today, it was packed with representatives from dozens of species, all eager to hear about the incident that had caused such a stir in diplomatic circles. So you assert? Committee Chair Sanlo's tentacles waved in what his species considered a skeptical pattern, that this human vessel not only attempted a rescue deemed impossible by all standard protocols, but also successfully protected your research from armed raiders. They did more than attempt. Venna's bioluminescence pulsed with conviction. They succeeded, using methods that defied conventional logic. But that's precisely my point. The galaxy has misunderstood humans fundamentally. The chamber's holographic displays showed footage from the Horizon Breaker's sensor logs, the descent into the gas giant's atmosphere, the rescue from the failing facility, the impossible FTL jump that had ensured their escape. Venna had included it in her official report, though she knew many would find it difficult to believe. We categorize humans as a death world species, she continued. We point to their predatory origins, their aggressive expansion, their tendency to solve problems through what we consider primitive means. But consider this, they are the only species in known space who looked at my distress signal and saw not a mathematical calculation of risk versus reward, but a simple truth: someone needed help. In the diplomatic section of the chamber, the human ambassador sat straighter. This was not the testimony many had expected when a Marixi scientist announced she would speak about her experience with humans. The rescue itself demonstrated everything we've misunderstood about them. Yes, they used aggressive tactics. Yes, they took what we would consider irrational risks. But look at how they did it. They transformed their cargo hold into a xenobiological preservation chamber in minutes. They turned the gas giant's lethal storms into a defensive weapon. They performed navigational calculations that our best computers deemed impossible. Vena activated another holographic display, this one showing the modified environmental systems the Horizon Breakers crew had developed. Their predatory nature, which so many fear, gives them unique insights. They understand pursuit and evasion on an instinctive level. Their aggressive expansion has taught them to adapt to almost any environment. Most importantly, their evolution on a death world hasn't made them primitive. It's made them impossibly creative. The chamber erupted in discussion, hundreds of translator devices creating a symphony of overlapping languages. Vena waited for the noise to subside before continuing. My research into atmospheric control systems, which the raiders sought to steal, has already been enhanced by human insights. Captain Chen's crew showed me how their ship's electromagnetic field modifications could stabilize gas giant storm patterns. Dr. Watson's observations about pressure adaptation have opened new avenues in xenobiology. They don't just solve problems, they transform them into opportunities. Chair Xanlo's tentacles shifted to a more contemplative pattern. You're suggesting we need to reevaluate our entire approach to human integration into galactic society. I'm suggesting we need to recognize that diversity in problem-solving approaches isn't just beneficial, it's essential. The galaxy is facing challenges that conventional logic can't solve. Climate degradation, resource depletion, interstellar piracy. We need species who can look at impossible situations and see possibilities. In the gallery, Captain Sarah Chen and her crew sat watching. They hadn't planned to attend, but Vena had insisted. She wanted them to see the impact of their actions. The Horizon Breakers crew risked everything to save one life, to protect one set of research data. They did it not because it was logical, but because they believed it was right. And in doing so, they proved that what we consider primitive instincts can be the foundation for something remarkable. Vena's crystalline form caught the chamber's light, sending rainbow refractions across the assembled delegates. I propose we establish a new joint research initiative, combining human intuitive problem-solving with our established scientific methods. Not despite their death world origins, but because of them. Their ability to thrive in adversity, to protect others at any cost, to find innovative solutions. These aren't flaws to be corrected. They're strengths we desperately need. The chamber erupted again, but this time the tone was different. Species that had long viewed humans with suspicion were beginning to see them in a new light. The very traits they had dismissed as primitive were being revealed as sophisticated adaptations. After the session, Vena found the Horizon Breakers crew waiting in one of the chamber's grand antechambers. Sarah Chen was grinning. "That was quite a speech," the captain said. "Though I think you gave us too much credit. We were just doing our job." "That's exactly my point," Vena replied, her lights pulsing warmly. "What you consider normal, the rest of the galaxy considers extraordinary. Your species doesn't just survive adversity. You transform it. You take impossible situations and turn them into achievements." Maya Rodriguez laughed. "Wait until they hear about some of our other normal operations. Remember that time we stabilized a neutron star's decay ray with modified mining equipment?" "Let's not give them too many surprises at once," Dr. Watson suggested. "They're still processing the fact that we can navigate through gas giant storms." Vena watched the crew's easy interaction, seeing in their casual banter the same qualities that had saved her life. The ability to face danger with innovation, and even humor, the instinct to protect combined with the intelligence to find unprecedented solutions. The galaxy was changing. Old prejudices about death-world species were being challenged. Humans were still aggressive, still predatory, still willing to take enormous risks. But now, thanks to one impossible rescue, others were beginning to understand that these weren't weaknesses to be feared, but strengths to be valued. As she listened to the crew discuss their next mission, something about stabilizing a collapsing wormhole that sounded equally impossible. Venna's crystalline form glowed with certainty. The galaxy needed humans, not despite their nature, but because of it. In a universe full of impossible challenges, sometimes you needed a species that didn't believe in impossible odds. Her research would help protect worlds from devastating storms, but the lesson of humanity's strength would protect the galaxy itself, teaching them all that the most powerful force in the universe wasn't logic or technology, but the simple, primitive, beautiful instinct to help others, no matter the cost, no matter the odds. The impossible rescue had become something more, a beacon of hope, illuminating a future where the combined strengths of all species could overcome any challenge. And it had started with one human crew who looked at an impossible situation and decided to try anyway.